though this may be cruel, I'm going to be swimming laps. You're probably freezing, but I'll tell you my full story later. All right, this is my view swimming laps. I'm going to do an unusual episode while swimming of my podcast because I'm a couple of days behind in retirement solutions for all ages. So, let me tell you a little bit about us buying our vacation home in Florida. Originally, we were living in Florida. Our homes appreciated here like crazy. Went up to 1.5 million in the heyday of the pandemic. Well, we ended up selling to get two for the price of one. So we sold at about 1.2 million. And then it is hard doing this. Like I said, I am literally swimming laps if you're not on the YouTube channel. So anyway, sold our home for just under 1.2 million. And the concept was two for the price of one. So what we did was we bought a house up in Asheville. We got an Accelerator Mortgage, which is a first-lien combination all-in-one mortgage, where we then have a line of credit for the original loan amount. But it is a adjustable loan. And when we knew that prices were high currently, the interest rates were high currently, it made a lot more sense to get an adjustable rate so you didn't have to pay the financing cost of refinancing when rates went down. Right now, I am paying less than 6%. And we got the loan 2.5 years ago. Well, when we sold the house in Florida, we then paid down the entire loan balance of our purchase in Asheville, North Carolina. Well, one of the reasons, in addition to the money, for us selling was that one of the reasons for us selling, in addition to the fact that our house was worth so much and we could get two for the price of one, was we were getting really close. We were on sea level, and Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Irma came within a fraction of an inch of flooding our home. So the hurricane scared us away. So then we go to Asheville. Guess what happened? We then got Hurricane Helene. So prices and insurance did go down in Florida. So we were finally ready to buy down here. And I am now swimming laps when there is an ice storm in Asheville. Last winter, I tried walking the dogs on the hills of the mountains. I slipped and hit my head dozens of times to the point where I had to give up and literally go down the hill on my butt, the dogs pulling me like sled dogs. It was insane, and I had bruises all over for months. So now we're dealing with the same sort of cold and ice and snow up there. Wouldn't you rather swim laps than shovel snow? So, this is even further back in my story. We were living in Chicago, and I was shoveling snow and snow blowing and exhausted and cold. And it was one of the worst winters we had had in Chicago. My husband was actually working in Siberia And he had warmer weather than I did in Chicago every time he left on a trip, and I had to do the shoveling and snowblowing. So we ended up looking at homes in Marco Island, and we were seeing the prices were going up. So we had to react soon, otherwise we'd be priced out of the market. So we bought a vacation home, and we did weekly rentals for the first year of owning this home. We were planning on retiring in about 5 years. Well, every month I found an excuse to fly down to Marco Island and check on the home. And oh my gosh, it was so wonderful. And my parents moved to Naples back in 81, 82. And I had never been here in summer in all that time. And I loved Florida in the summer. You had the nice cool breezes. And you go swimming if you get too hot. Or in the summer, you have this storm that comes for 15 minutes, drops the humidity, and makes life wonderful again. So then, after a full year of making money on this house and coming down to visit to do maintenance and work, I told my husband, I can't handle Chicago anymore. We need to move. You need to find a job, because if you don't find a job where you can live in Florida, we're going to be living in separate homes. So he ended up finding a wonderful job down in Florida, and we bought a bigger home for us other than the rental, because the rental only had one car, and if both of us were working, we needed 2 cars, and it just wasn't appropriate. So we spent time looking for another home, found a wonderful home, great price. We're doing some of the fixing up. You buy the lowest price home in the neighborhood and fix it up so that you have the appreciation. Okay, I'm getting a little tired doing the laps. The other people in the other lanes are looking funny at me. I need a rest. I think worse than doing the laps is just holding my arm in one single place. So I'm gonna turn this off and I'll finish the story later. This is kind of how I wrote my health book back in 2003. I would be doing laps and I'd get to the end of the lap and I'd grab paper and pen and write down all my thoughts. It's really great to think while swimming. It's a beautiful day. Look at that sky. So let me finish my story. I'm not sure where I left off, but as a retirement solution for all ages, one of the things that we did was we purchased our future retirement home, or at least that's what we thought at the time, down in Florida before we could afford to move there. We loved it so much that we ended up moving there a year later. We kept working, but we loved living in this beautiful tropical paradise. Now, the hurricanes, they came and scared us away. We were living just 6 feet above sea level, and they were predicting that hurricane surge would be 12 to 24 feet at sometimes. And our house came just within a fraction of an inch of getting flooded twice. We luckily did not have any insurance claims, including our roof. One of the reasons for that, and one of the things that I want to give you as a piece of advice, is if you have a mortgage on your home in Florida, and really a lot of places these days, they care so much about the roof, because Hurricane Irma had the most extensive hurricane winds and roof replacements of just about any hurricane. Each hurricane, oddly, is different.
Irma was wind, Ian was storm surge.
So for Irma, every homeowner you get a new roof, you get a new roof. Well, the insurance companies couldn't handle that. So then when Ian came, that was flooding, and they were more strict about approving damages, and people just were devastated. So I think the everyday person took advantage of the insurance companies after Irma, and the insurance companies took advantage of the homeowners after Ian. Well, storms seem to be getting much worse and more frequent. So we were like, we need to get out of Florida. We moved to Asheville, North Carolina, and then Hurricane Helene hits. Well, if I can't get away from hurricanes, why am I going to be in the icing cold that people are experiencing in Asheville right now? So we decided we'd buy a home down in Florida again, which all along was our intent, two homes for the price of one. But what we did was we got an accelerator mortgage. And by purchasing the home in Asheville, we got a mortgage for 90% of the loan to value because it was, or I guess we got 80% loan to value because it was a second home. If it were a primary home, we could have got a 90% loan to value. You have to be highly qualified, as my last podcast discusses with the accelerator loan. But then we sold the house in Florida and took the profits of $1.1 million, paid off the first mortgage on the Florida home and paid off the mortgage on the Asheville home. But we didn't close out our mortgage in Asheville. The accelerator loan let us pay it down to zero. And when we needed money, we took it out. So now we are living in Asheville for 2.5 years and buy down in Florida, and I take a $400,000 loan out of that accelerator loan in Asheville and pay cash for the house here in Naples, Florida. Well, the wonderful thing about doing it this way and how you can plan for retirement at all ages, and one of the mistakes I learned from the vacation rental that we got in Marco Island before buying our permanent home in Marco Island, is when we sold that vacation home, we had capital gains tax. Oh my gosh, the house went up in value so much. We had it for less than 2 years. It was never our primary home. So when I bought the house in Asheville, my idea was I can handle 2 years in Asheville so that I get the tax advantages. Now, I'm not an accountant. Talk to an accountant about that. But let me tell you, one of the best things about buying a home in both Asheville and Naples is if there's a hurricane in Florida, I go to Asheville. If it's too hot in Florida in the summer, I go to Asheville. If it gets icy and snowy in Asheville, I go to Florida. It is the best of all worlds. Now, we are not planning on renting out either of these homes, and that will make a difference, and it's perfectly up to you. I think the younger you are, the easier it is to manage vacation rentals and expectations. But when you get older, you just want that security of not having to deal with tenants. And, you know, if you have the money, why bother renting it out? So that's kind of where we are. But as an investment strategy and planning for your retirement, I know I'm talking about vacation. Oh, buy the cheapest home on the block. So I'm dealing with a client right now who needs to sell their home at wholesale rate because she has dementia. She's, kind of hoarding. She doesn't have money for a housekeeper. The house is a mess. It's in terrible shape. So if you were to buy something like this, you get it at a discount, 20% off the retail price. Well, you clean it out and you rent it out to other people. And then you don't have to worry about them destroying it because, the house wasn't in the best condition to begin with. But when you go to Florida, it's for this beautiful weather. It is so fabulous to be here and to enjoy the sunshine and to swim laps for exercise or golf or pickleball, whatever your joy is. So while you're still living up north, during those storms, if you don't have anyone renting out the place, you come down, because most people rent it during vacations and holidays and they plan ahead and they can't just hop on a plane if it's going to be cold. So then when you're ready to retire, you take this home that isn't, the new kitchen and new bathrooms, you put those in for yourself and boom, your value skyrockets. So this is my retirement solution for all ages. Buy a vacation home someplace else. Oh, also mention the roofs again. So if you have a mortgage, they want your roof to be under a certain life expectancy. Well, the roof I have on our home, it is beyond that life expectancy, but it is completely and totally functional. So it doesn't hurt our insurance policy because there are no leaks, but we wouldn't have been able to get a mortgage on the house because of the roof. Now, we do need to plan to spend money on a new roof when the time is necessary. But that all comes from planning, and we were able to get the house we bought much cheaper because it had an old roof, and somebody who was getting a mortgage wouldn't be able to purchase that home. But a lot of you have $1 million homes up north that might be paid off free and clear. Let's get you a HELOC to pull the money out of the house up north to pay cash for the house down in Florida. And then when it comes time to make that home your permanent home, we can have you sell your northern home or keep it. I think you should keep it. But when you make Florida your permanent residence, we can get you a reverse mortgage so you know you're not going to run out of money. So thank you for watching Retirement Solutions for All Ages. I hope you're enjoying this sunshine vicariously, and please come join me down in Florida. I can help you with your mortgage or buying a home. Thank you.